I think we're live. If anyone can hear me, just push one in the chat, please. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 764, Space and Technology. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. The docket will be in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with and reference. If you want to get on the panel, just say something in the chat. We'll drop the link for you. Let me add the first item to the docket, and we'll get started. All right, let me know if you can see the article on the screen. All right, thank you for the confirmation. Let's get started. This first item on the docket is from PropModo. More office occupiers are looking to their buildings for edge computing. This is really big. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. Oh, whoops. I got to sign into this. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Actually, I think we'll have to, lost my credentials for this. Yeah, we'll just have to skip that. All right, we're gonna have to skip to that, skip that article for right now. I'm gonna skip to the MIT news article. Report, CHIPS Act just the first step in addressing threats to US leadership in advanced computing. The Advanced Computing User Survey, sampling sentiments from 120 top-tier universities, national labs, federal agencies, and private firms, finds the decline in America's advanced computing lead spans many areas. This is going to be interesting. When Liu He, a Chinese economist, politician, and chip czar, was tapped to lead the charge in a chip-making arms race with the United States, his message lingered in the air, leaving behind a dewy glaze of tension. Quote, "For our country, technology is not just for growth, it is a matter of survival." Once upon a time, the United States' early technological prowess positioned the nation to outpace foreign rivals and cultivate a competitive advantage for domestic businesses. Yet 30 years later, America's lead in advanced computing is continuing to wane. What happened? A new report from an MIT researcher and colleagues shed light on the decline in US leadership. The scientists looked at high-level measures to examine the shrinkage, overall capabilities, supercomputers, applied algorithms, and semiconductor manufacturing. Through their analysis, they found that not only has China closed the computing gap with the US, but nearly 80% of American leaders in the field believe that their Chinese competitors are improving capabilities faster, which the team says suggests a, quote, broad threat to US competitiveness. To delve deeply into the fray, the scientists conducted the Advanced Computing User Survey, sampling 120 top-tier organizations, including universities, national labs, federal agencies, and industry. The team estimates that the group comprises 1/3 and 1/2 of all of the most significant computing users in the United States. Quote, "Advanced computing is crucial to scientific improvement, economic growth, and competitiveness of US companies," says Neil Thompson, director of the Future Tech Research Project at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, CISO, who helped lead the study. Thompson, who is also a principal investigator at MIT's initiative on the digital economy, wrote the paper with Chad Evans, executive vice president and secretary and treasurer to the board at the Council on Competitiveness, and Daniel Armburst, who is the co-founder, initial CEO, and members of the board of directors at Silicon Catalyst and former president of CEMATEC, the semiconductor consortium that developed industry roadmaps. The semiconductors, the room-sized giant calculators of the hardware world, are an industry no longer dominated by the United States. Through 2015, about half of the most powerful computers were sitting firmly in the US, and China was growing slowly from a very slow base. But in the past 6 years, China has swiftly caught up, reaching near parity with America. This disappearing lead matters. 84% of the US survey respondents said they are computationally constrained in running essential programs. Quote, "This result was telling, given who our respondents are, the vanguard of American research enterprises and academic institutions with privileged access to advanced national supercomputing resources," says Thompson. With regards to advanced algorithms, historically, the US has fronted the charge, with 2/3 of all significant improvements dominated by US-born investors. But in recent decades, US dominance in algorithms has relied on bringing in foreign talent to work in the US, which the researchers say is now in jeopardy. China has outpaced the US and many other countries in churning out PhDs in STEM fields since 2007, with one report postulating a near distant future, 2025, where China will be home to nearly twice as many PhDs than in the US. China's rise in algorithms can also be seen with the Gordon Bell Prize, an achievement for outstanding work in harnessing the power of supercomputers in varied applications. US winners historically dominate the prize, but China now equaled or surpassed American performance in the past 5 years. That's what happens when you cultivate your society on math and science. We don't do that in the United States at all. You can see that reflected in the numbers. While researchers note the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022 is a critical step in reestablishing the foundation of success for advanced computing, they propose recommendations to the U.S. Office of Science and Technology Policy. First, they suggest democratizing access to U.S. supercomputing by building more mid-tier systems that push boundaries for many users, as well as building tools so users scaling up computations can have less upfront resource investment. They also recommend increasing the pool of innovators by funding many more electrical engineers and computer scientists being trained with long-term U.S. residency incentives and scholarships. Finally, in addition to this new framework, the scientists urge taking advantage of what already exists via providing the private sector access to experimentation with high-performance computing through supercomputing sites in academia and national labs. I mean, this is kind of basic, but I mean, we've been saying this for a while now, that the lack of investment in a lot of these sources and places of innovation is part of the problem. I'm not sure who makes these decisions, but it seems to me that there's an unwillingness to actually make these investments in non-Anglo-Saxon people. Let's just keep it like that. All that in a bag of chips. Computing improvements depend on continuous advances in transistor density and performance, but creating robust new chips necessitate a harmonious blend of design and manufacturing. Over the last 6 years, China was not known as the saviors of noteworthy chips. In fact, in the past 5 decades, the US designed most of them. But this changed in the past 6 years when China created the high silicon Kirin 9000, propelling itself to the international frontier. This success was mainly obtained through partnerships with leading global chip designers that began in the 2000s. Now, China now has 14 companies among the world's 50 fabulous designers. A decade ago, there was only one. Competitive semiconductor manufacturing has been more mixed, where US-led policies and internal execution issues have slowed China's rise. But as of July 2022, the Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporations, SMIC, has evidence of 7 nanometer logic, which was not expected until much later. However, with extreme ultraviolet export restrictions, progress below 7 nanometers means domestic technology development would be expensive. Currently, China is only at parity or better in 2 out of the 12 segments of the semiconductor supply chain. Still, the government policy and investments, the team expects a whopping increase to 7 segments in 10 years. So, for the moment, the US retains leadership in hardware manufacturing, but with fewer dimensions of advantage. The authors recommend that the White House Office of Science and Technology policy work with key national agencies such as the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Energy, and the National Science Foundation to define initiatives to build the hardware and software systems needed for important computing paradigms and workloads critical for economic security goals. Quote, "It is crucial that American enterprises can get the benefit of faster computers," says Thompson. With Moore's law slowing down, the best way to do this is to create a portfolio of specialized chips or accelerators that are customized to our needs. This was eventually going to happen, right? You have autonomous vehicles, you have cloud computing, you have blockchain, you have AI, all of these sort of emerging technologies leverage chips differently and leverage memory capacity different in every aspect. And so you don't necessarily use a generalized chip. You kind of use a special chip per, per application. And so this was inevitably going to happen. The scientists further believe that to lead the next generation of computing, 4 areas must be addressed. First, by issuing grand challenges to the CHIPS Act Semiconductor Technology Center. Researchers and startups would be motivated to invest in research and development and to seek startup capital for new technologies in areas such as spintronics, neuromorphics, optical and quantum computing, and optical interconnect fabrics. By supporting allies and passing similar acts, overall investments in these technologies would increase and supply chains would become more aligned and secure. Establishing test beds for researchers to test algorithms on new computing architectures and hardware would provide an essential platform for innovation and discovery. Finally, planning for post-exascale systems that achieve higher levels of performance through the next generation advances would ensure that current commercial technologies don't limit future computing systems. I mean, that's inevitable, right? I mean, you can only go up in vertical when it comes to computing anyways. There's no way you're going to really be able to not do it that way. I mean, it's just very basic logic to me. Actually, let me disrupt this. Quote, the advanced computing landscape is in rapid flux, technologically, economically, and politically, with both new opportunities for innovation and rising global rivalries, says Daniel Reed, presidential professor and professor of computer science and electrical and computing engineering at the University of Utah. Quote, the transformational insights from both deep learning and computational modeling depend on both continued semiconductor advances and their sedimentation and leading edge large-scale computing systems and hyperscale clouds and high-performance computing systems. Although the US has historically led the world in both advanced semiconductors and high-performance computing, other nations have recognized that these capabilities are integral to 21st century economic competitiveness and national security, and they are investing heavily. The research was funded in part through Thompson's grant from Good Ventures. This is true for everybody. You can't compete unless you have these capabilities, okay? Now, these sort of small island developing states, SIDS, your Caribbean islands and your small micronations and stuff like that, that's not really expected of to have these capabilities. But if you're a G20, G7, anybody who has large scale representation within the United Nations, you're not going to be able to compete unless you have a sizable society that is invested into STEM, for that matter. It's impossible for you to move forward unless you have a large demographic of people who are well educated in the sciences and engineering. Impossible. But we've been saying this kind of like about the Black community since the inception of this channel, that it's impossible for Black people to move forward without having investments in these areas, academically and business-wise. It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to compete on a global scale unless you're investing in these areas. And what I hear from a lot of Black people is just a lot of pushback. Why can't we just do TikTok? Why can't we just do, be a part of the creator economy? I think that's cool and all, but what happens when you have to actually start producing outside of the creator economy. You could only do so many YouTube videos and TikTok dances until you really have to sit down and look at things like you're looking at on screen, these chips in this wafer right here. This is pretty much going to be the bare minimum of entry if you want to be a part of the global society or dominant players. China is a dominant player. Russia is still a dominant player, despite the fact how sanctioned they are. They're still a dominant player. Iran is a dominant player in the Central Asian marketplace or region. UAE is now becoming a dominant player in terms of the sciences. South Africa is pretty strong when it comes to science and research, but the rest of Africa has not caught up to this. They're just not there yet. And Black people in America are just not there. We don't have these sort of incubators in our communities that can actually harness the human capital that's there to cultivate them so that we can actually be a part of fourth, fifth, and sixth industrialization. We're just not there yet. And for whatever reason, in predominantly Black male spaces, this is not the discussion. The discussion is about women and it's about dating and stuff like that. And so if they're saying that China is going to blow past the United States, what does that mean for African Americans? What does that mean for Black men? I don't know. Okay, I think that there's a lot of shucking and jiving that goes on in collectivist spaces of Black men that don't seem to take this stuff seriously outside of HBCUs. In social media, you're not going to have these discussions anywhere else outside of this space. Good luck. All right, let's get to the next item on the docket. All right, next item on the docket. This is from Electrek. Mississippi, the 50th place in everything, passes bill to stop EV dealers. Zoom in on this a little bit. The Mississippi, there is a saying used in the US, thank God for Mississippi. This is a reference to the state coming in the last place in many rankings of desirability as compared to the other 49 states in the US. It typically ranks last or close to last in economic measures, poverty, quality of life, health, education, unemployment rate, and so on. So much of that other low-ranking states can at least thank the existence of Mississippi for sparing them for ranking last place in these various measures. And so when confronted with a rapidly growing industry, which is currently eyeing the South for billions in investment with new battery and car factories, bringing long-term job prospects and prosperity along with them, Mississippi looked at their neighbors and at their own last place rank in everything and said, nah, we're good here. That's what happened today as the Mississippi Senate passed a bill banning the very same electric car manufacturers currently investing in nearby states from opening dealerships in their state. The bill started as House Bill 401, which you can see on the Mississippi legislators' website. And yes, the website does use Comic Sans, really. It amends Mississippi law related to car dealerships, clarifying that EV manufacturers can't get around the state's dealership laws, an exception that has been used by some manufacturers who have never opened a licensed dealer before. This will stop EV manufacturers from opening any physical locations in Mississippi. There is an exception for the in the law carved out for Tesla, which currently operates a single location in Brandon, Mississippi. This is the latest in a long battle over EV dealerships, mostly occurring between Tesla and other startup EV manufacturers who prefer to sell cars online or in their own facilities rather than working with existing dealerships. And traditional dealerships who want to stop new EV makers from setting up their own easier sales process, even though customers have shown much higher satisfaction from these new sales processes than traditional dealerships. The battle has been going on state by state for some time, though Tesla and other companies have figured out workarounds, which involve transacting cars in other states and then delivering them in the states that make it more difficult for their residents to purchase an EV. Like in most states, the bill came from traditional car dealers, which Republican Senator Bryce Wiggins called a protectionist effort. Oh man, I'm not gonna read that. Another senator, Republican Joey Fillingane, acknowledged Mississippi's position and the danger that this bill poses to keep the state there. Maybe we just like being last all the time. Maybe it's a badge of honor, and we're the last ones to change. If we're not careful, we could deprive our citizens of opportunities they really are not to be deprived of. One supporter of the bill, Republican Senator Daniel Sparks, seemed to proudly wear the badge of honor. He stated that the bill merely makes everyone follow the same laws, but then added a glib remark. Quote, "Please don't tell me Tesla's car doesn't identify as a car." Directing this statement at Tesla indicates that the bill, despite claiming to ensure equal ground, does in fact target Tesla. Also, it could be noted that this statement's use of the phrase, quote, "identify as," uses similar rhetoric as the anti-trans sentiment that is currently swirling throughout the Republican culture war sphere, which has also been echoed by Tesla CEO Elon Musk himself. Mississippi has no statewide electric vehicle purchase incentive, but does impose an annual $150 tax on electric vehicles, far above the amount of taxation that a hypothetically similar efficient gas vehicle would have to pay. This charge is approximately equivalent to the amount of gas taxes as similar efficient vehicles would pay if it drove 100,000 miles in a year. Meanwhile, gas vehicles benefit from tens of thousands of dollars in incentives over their lifetime in terms of ignored health and environmental costs of pollution, which harm the health of Mississippians and everyone else in the world. So, Mississippi is at it again. Instead of Jim Crow, we got Jim Charge, in the sense that they don't, they even have segregation when it comes to electric vehicles and other forms of advanced technologies. I don't really see the point in Mississippi being a state at this juncture. I mean, what value does Mississippi really bring to the collective of the United States? They don't really do anything at this point. All of their politics are really, and policy is really surrounded around obstructionism. Stop this, block that, ban this, ban that. I don't get it. Why would anyone want to live in Mississippi at this point is beyond me. But I do see that Mississippi is 50th in everything, and this too. It's very sad to see that we just got finished reading an article about the CHIPS Act, the CHIPS Act and Science, right? The CHIPS and Science Act. China is walking past the United States every 18 months or so, if you're using Moore's Law. And here you have Mississippi obstructing the advancement of technological sales of electric vehicles. You can't make this up. It's not anybody else's fault that Mississippi is in the state that it's in, other than for conservative legislation. Anybody thinks they can do business with those jokers on the other side, good luck. Supposedly they're good for business. I don't see any state outside of Texas Energy being reflective of this at all. And it's a shame that Black people, the largest demographic of Black people in the city is in Jackson, and they are at mercy's end dealing with these people. All right, let's get to the next article. All right, this is from investors.com. Autonomous trucks are barreling ahead, but robot big rigs face a bumpy road. All right, let me zoom in on this. The days of friendly truck drivers blowing their air horns for kids along the highway are numbered. Someday soon, that 18-wheeler you might pass, you pass might have no one behind the wheel. So buckle up for the coming age of autonomous trucks, because it's a good bet trucking companies will get them rolling long before driverless passenger cars. Amid a severe shortage of drivers, trucking companies are looking to self-driving rigs to fill the gap. Proponents say the technology is there to create autonomous truck fleets within a few years. Meanwhile, development of driverless cars continues to struggle. Oh, shit. Two dozen states already allow commercial deployment of interstate autonomous trucks, and they are now on the road in some spots. Further, most states allow testing of self-driving trucks that have human backup on board. For interstate travel, however, autonomous trucks still need clearance from the federal government. Quote, "This is the present, not the future. It's happening now," said Richard Steiner, head of policy and communications for self-driving truck firm Docket. Quote, "Over the next few years, you're definitely going to see autonomous trucks become increasingly commonplace across multiple markets. Rest assured, speed bumps may lie ahead. Trepidation remains over the safety of unmanned vehicles, especially those weighing 20 times that of the average passenger car. Cautious trucking companies, companies and regulators have been tapping the brakes, making sure the technology is ready." At the core of those concerns are high-profile accidents such as those involving Tesla's autopilot feature in its electric cars. But Tesla autopilots are not full self-driving cars. Instead, they are advanced driver assistance systems where the human driver is responsible. Also, Tesla cars lack the robust sensor systems such as LiDAR used by autonomous trucks. Simply put, development of self-driving truck technology is leaving driverless cars in the dust. A convoy of tech companies hoping to cash in on autonomous trucks went public during the SPAC boom of 2021. But their shares have underperformed as the companies remain in development mode. Analysts have criticized special purchase acquisition companies for taking startups public too early in their development. Those firms include makers of self-driving truck technology such as Aurora Innovation, Embark Technology, and Too Simple. They compete with privately held firms like Docket Plus and Torque Robotics. Another privately held firm is Mountain View, California-based Kodiak Robotics. It totes that it is building the world's safest driver, with its autonomous long-haul trucks. Its driving system uses short and long-range LiDAR cameras and radar sensors that combine a vision range of 1,000 meters. That's interesting. But Wall Street has yet to be convinced about which companies or business approaches have staying power. Quote, the markets are skeptical of pre-revenue companies, Jefferies analyst Stephen Volkman said. Other tech firms play in this space though. Companies looking to profit from the trend include makers of computer vision systems needed for autonomous trucks to see the road, traffic signals, and other vehicles and obstructions. Companies in that camp include camera vision firm Mobileye, along with LiDAR sensor makers Via Technologies, Innoviz Technologies, and Luminar Technologies, and Ouster, to name a few. Also, graphics processor maker NVIDIA is in the game as the key partner for numerous autonomous trucking firms with its drive computing systems. It also makes technology geared for driverless cars. Are there fully autonomous trucks on the road? Meanwhile, Mountain View, California-based Gatchik has already commercialized self-driving trucks. Unlike firms focused on long-haul trucking, Gatchik specializes in shorter routes, including metropolitan areas. Quote, we live in the middle mile, the movement of goods between micro-fulfillment centers and smaller distribution centers and drop-off locations such as retail storefronts and other convenient local pickup points where consumers can access their goods. Gatchik Steiner said, many of our routes at the moment are in the 50 to 75 mile range. Gatchik now operates fully driverless trucks for Walmart in Arkansas and Canadian food and pharmacy retailer Loblaw in Ontario. The company operates about 45 light and medium duty box trucks for customers in North America. It expects to have more than 100 by the end of this year, Steiner says. Some of those trucks feature human safety drivers on board, and companies plan to transition to fully autonomous driving as they perfect the routes. By removing the human driver, trucking companies can save 30% on their trucking costs, Steiner says. Estimates on cost savings vary among others in the industry. Quote, the economics are significant to say the least, he said. For Walmart, the transition to begin using fully driverless trucks took 24 months. Loblaw came next, and it took 19 months to make the switch. Interesting. Quote, the time to fully driverless is shrinking, Steiner said. It's too early to predict winners in the tech space and around autonomous trucks, Jefferies analyst Volkman says. Widespread adoption of the technology is 3 to 5 years away, he says. Yet operators of large fleets will be huge beneficiaries of autonomous truck technology, Volkman adds. The reason that the economics behind self-driving tractor trailers are so compelling. Since driver wages and benefits account for about 45% of costs, autonomous trucks can slash operating expenses, Volkman said. Trucking companies will cut at least 20% of their variable costs when all factors are considered, Volkman believes. Also, autonomous trucks don't need to take breaks for meals, rest stops, and sleep, shortening delivery times. Federal law limit truck drive time to 11 hours before taking a 10-hour break. Autonomous trucks aren't subject to the same limitations and can operate 24/7. They only need to stop to refuel and get their sensors wiped clean. One day mileage for long-haul trucks can increase about 125% using autonomous technology, Volkman says. As a result, trucking firms likely will take market share from rail and air freight, he predicts. I don't know about that. Quote, this will be a game changer in logistics, Volkman said. Autonomous trucks, autonomous trucks are likely to happen before driverless cars because of the reduced complexity of highway driving, Volkman says. Backers also say autonomous trucks will be safer and more fuel efficient than those with human drivers. Plus, once companies prove the safety aspect, insurance rates should come down, industry officials say. Many self-driving trucking companies will offer their technology as a service on a per mile cost basis. Others will sell their technology through truck builders. Before autonomous trucks can take over the highways, however, they'll need to get full regulatory approval. The U.S. Department of Transportation set the framework for regulatory environment for driverless cars and trucks with a Autonomous Vehicle 4.0 plan in 2019. Final technical hurdles for the rollout of autonomous trucks include proving that the robot truck drivers can operate in all weather conditions, day and night. LiDAR, short for light detection and ranging, is a key component for this hurdle. With laser-based LiDAR systems, autonomous vehicles can see in the dark and blinding sunlight and through fog, rain, and snow, we're going to say. Radar systems are another possible solution for seeing in bad weather conditions. Quote, on a nice sunny day in Arizona, these things work fine all day long, Volkman said. But what happens when it's rainy and foggy, or there's a snowstorm, or there's an accident or construction that wasn't expected? That's why long-haul autonomous big rigs are likely to hit the road first in the southern United States, he says. Quote, most of these companies are talking about doing it on long, repeatable routes. Call it LA to Las Vegas, Volkman said. Another aspect of autonomous trucking that needs to be worked out is fueling. Truck stops and other gas stations will need to service robot trucks on long routes. Meanwhile, some autonomous trucking companies are looking to commercialize their technology on an incremental basis. Cupertino, California-based Plus prefers to enter the market first with systems that help human truck drivers. It has its eye on full autonomy down the road, but its first product acts as a highly intelligent driving assistant. It allows drivers to engage the system to automatically drive on the highway, keep the vehicle centered in its lane, and handle merging traffic. With the Plus driving assistant technology, human truck drivers are more like airline pilots, Plus chief executive David Liu says. Quote, while other companies are focused on showcasing potentials, we're focused on commercial products for the market today, Liu said. That's a key differentiation. We take an evolutionary approach. He added, its progression and over time will produce full autonomy. Most of the other companies are focused on going directly to full autonomy. Liu sees a shakeout of autonomous trucking companies. The industry is going through a shakeout, he said. If companies didn't focus on the right thing, people will question their viability. Plus has hundreds of systems operating in trucks today in the US and China, Liu says. We're just getting started, he said. So we've talked about this many times before, about autonomous vehicles, autonomous trucking especially. And I think that I've touched on this before, that if you want to kind of redevelop the infrastructure, civil infrastructure in the Black community, you would want to start sandboxing technology such as autonomous vehicles in these areas. And the way you do that is by ripping up road, repaving it, getting rid of all the potholes, most advanced traffic management systems, traffic lights and crosswalks and so on and so forth. That's how you kind of get involved, right? From a people perspective on the ground, you may not be developing the vehicles, but you are a part of the infrastructure development. So where do you fall in line with that? And so I think there is room for opportunity for Black people to really get into this industry in particular, because the Black community has been plagued with having highways, built right through it, and other sort of roadway that has displaced people. The one time that you can actually benefit from, disruption is now with autonomous vehicles. And I do think that you don't necessarily need to be a PhD in this. We've talked about this before, that you can go get a nano degree certifications in these type of things. I think that there's plenty of opportunity for Black people to get involved in the autonomous vehicle industry, especially autonomous trucking. And so my take on that is, if I was getting into tech right now, if I was 18, I'd be looking at this. Okay. Shonda H., how are you doing? Good evening to you. Ike Ogerman, what's going on? Got a lot of people watching, but nobody's getting on the panel. That's cool. Got a lot to cover tonight, so I'm going to try to fly through this as quickly as possible. This is interesting. This is from arstechnica.com. Qualcomm wants to replace eSIMs with iSIMs, has the first certified SoC. Here's an interesting bit of news out of Mobile World Congress. Qualcomm says the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 has been certified as the, quote, world's first commercially deployable SIM integrated, deployable iSIM integrated SIM. Quote, what the heck is an iSIM? Didn't we just go through a SIM card transition with eSIM? We did, but iSIM is better than eSIM. We'll explain, but the short answer is that iSIM is the next step in the continual march to reduce the size of SIM cards. Okay, so SIM cards are in the smallest nano size, little 12 by 9 millimeter plastic cards that you physically stick into your phone. SIM stands for Subscriber Identity Module, and these cards mostly just identify you to your cell carrier, allowing your device to be provisioned for the cellular service that you pay a monthly bill for. The idea is that if you buy a new phone or have multiple phones, you can just move the SIM card over. And if there aren't any compatibility problems, your service could be easily moved between phones. In ye olden days, these cards would store some actual data like contacts and messages. But with the advent of smartphones, all of that moved to the cloud. Today, a SIM card can store up to 265 kilobytes of data in that 12 by 9 millimeter card, which is absolutely horrible data density, considering similarly sized micro SD cards can go up to 1 terabyte or about 4.2 million times more data. SIM cards are a huge waste of space in an industry that is very aggressive about saving space, so they needed to go. Enter eSIMs. The newest standard that does away with the physical removable SIM card and instead solders a tiny chip on the motherboard of your phone. These came to the Google Pixel line in 2017, the iPhone in 2018, and some Samsung phones in 2021. And for a few models, they lived alongside physical cards. A major turning point for most carriers was Apple killing the physical SIM card in 2022, with some iPhone 14 models only going eSIM only. An eSIM only device has no removable card at all, and therefore no card slot, simplifying device design, saving space, and removing one possible spot for water ingress. Instead of sticking a hunk of plastic in your phone, your You provision your device via some app, usually by signing into your account with your carrier. eSIMs are a big size savings over physical cards, and the smallest chips are around 2.5 by 2.3 millimeters. This is a blow-up sketch of the differences between SIM cards. So every 4 years or so, you start to see new development in cards, since 2003. eSIMs are still a chip taking up space on your motherboard, and that's not ideal if you want to squeeze every square millimeter of space out of your phone. The next shrinking step is iSIM, an integrated subscriber identity module rather than a chip on the motherboard. iSIMs are integrated directly onto the SoC, or system on chip integration is the technology that makes smartphones possible. Instead of 1,000 little chips for things like the CPU, GPU, RAM, modem, and a bunch of other things, everything gets packed into a single do everything piece of silicon. Individual chips require more space and power thanks to having to make motherboard traces to connect everything and having to deal with chip packages. Building everything in one chip with the tiniest transistors you can muster is the cheapest and most space efficient and power efficient ways to do things. Now, SIM cards are going to disappear into that big block of stuff. iSIMs will be measured in fractions of a millimeter. And as part of the SoC, they will continually shrink every year as the chip process nodes hit every smaller nanometer measurement. It sounds like this is the end game for SIM technology, and besides helping out phones, will be great for ever more space-constrained devices like smartwatches. Of course, we'll need carriers to be on board with this, and that's what Qualcomm's announcement is mostly about. The iSIM solution is in the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 SoC, which is shipping now, has been certified by the GSMA, aka the world's cell carriers. Qualcomm says the new iSIM is the fully compliant with the GSMA remote SIM provisioning standard, meaning its subscribers are remotely manageable through any standard platform. That's the same standard as eSIM, and it's held to all the same security requirements. So theoretically, any carrier that works with eSIM shouldn't see a difference between eSIM and iSIM. iSIM is still just a hunk of silicon that needs software provision. Where the silicon lives shouldn't really matter to your carrier. Here's something that's interesting, because I know complex design would be interested in this. When you have an iSIM or eSIM, complex design works with micro transportation. Micro mobility is the market that he's in. When you have e-scooters, e-bikes, and trikes and things like that, having an eSIM or iSIM, for this matter, iSIM, makes a lot of sense, because now you start having these sort of connected bikes or these connected vehicles, e-scooters and e-bikes and stuff like that. And what that allows for is rolling out multiple bikes at a time and provisioning those bikes to a network and not having to worry about whether they get lost or they get damaged or they get stolen or something like that. And you can remotely manage them, and they generate data, and they pump all that data back to the cloud. And what that does is it creates a whole entire different segment for managing fleet vehicles. And so this actually takes all of the labor out of somebody like Complex Design when he, produces and manufactures and distributes micro transportation. And so there is a place for, this new technology, and I'm surprised that this is coming out this so fast. But I guess, technology doubles every 18 months. So according to Moore's law, so there's going to be a lot more robust places of application for this, especially when it comes to IoT, you know. All right, let me get to the next item on the docket. All right. This is from WBER.org. Repair cafes and mass build community by restoring busted home goods once destined for landfills. People, mostly strangers, carrying broken household items file into the First Parish Church social hall in Framingham. One man arrives with a torn backpack. Another holds an iPad that refuses to turn on. A woman hauls bikes and gardening tools out of the car. The lobby fills up with lamps, coffee makers, and sewing machines. They are here for Repair Cafe, where volunteers try to fix whatever comes through the door for free. The goal, to reduce what gets buried in landfills and keep people from using what they already have. Quote, the society we're in are all driven on digging more things up out of the earth, turning them into products, and then sending them to a landfill as fast as we can, says Alex Volson, one of the organizers. Quote, it doesn't seem like a good plan. If you think of us living on a finite ball called the earth, because you'll eventually run out of things you can dig up and places you to throw. This is very true. Inside the hall, roughly 30 volunteers wait at portable tables, building sewing machines, behind sewing machines, soldering guns, and toolboxes filled with parts and supplies. Leslie White Harvey is the first customer from the long line outside. She heads straight for the watch repair table, carrying a rhinestone covered watch she picked up at a yard sale for $1. Quote, isn't it beautiful? She asks, I have my sports watch, but sometimes I like to dress up. Let's just, volunteer Foss Tigay specializes in battery replacement. If a new battery doesn't restart White Harvey's jewel, she'll be directed to someone else. Tigay pries the back off her watch, pops out the old battery and replaces it with one plucked from his toolbox. The glittering watch starts ticking. It's Tigay's fourth repair site cafe, so he knows which batteries he'll most likely need. He orders them in bulk for about 50 cents each. Quote, now for $1, you have a perfectly fine running watch, Tigay tells White Harvey. Oh, and another 50 cents for the battery. It's a good deal. Amsterdam hosted the first repair cafe in 2010. It's since grown to more than 2,600 worldwide. The international organizers estimate they keep about 500,000 articles out of landfills worldwide every year. Quote, on a global scale, that's very little, says Martine Postma, the founder and director of Repair Cafe International Foundation. I'm not satisfied at all. But Postma says repair cafes bring many other benefits. They help Guests see how they can live with less, save money, rely on neighbors for help. Fix-It clinics, another grassroots repair movement, shares some of the same objectives. After pausing during COVID, the Framingham Group is aiming for 3 cafes this year. Organizer Mary Beth Croce with the Rotary Club of Framingham says she doesn't have any trouble finding people willing to spend a Saturday afternoon fixing items for strangers. Quote, our volunteers love it. Croce says, as a small woman arrives with a sewing machine, hoping to squeeze in at the sewing repair table. Can you guys make room? Toby's really tiny, Croce asks, laughing. There's a wide range of expertise here, from knitters to electricians to software and mechanical engineers. It's hard to predict what services will be in demand. Well, we hope for the best, Croce says. We'll get a lot of people who are jacks of all trades. Volunteers often collaborate on more challenging repairs. Wow, I haven't seen one of those in years. Celine Riard, an interior designer, is focused on a common item at a repair cafes, lamps. Riard picks up a stately brass model, twists open the top, and sticks her finger inside. Quote, that little switch, she says, tugging on a wire, is usually the first thing that's going to give up. In less than 5 minutes, Riard is testing a new switch. Yep, it's working. Done, she announces. Helping people fixing things, it really gives you a sense of purpose. The lamp's owner, June Joyce, is a volunteer at the jewelry repair table. Alexi Law has brought Joyce a necklace Law's great aunt made. The chain was too delicate and kept snapping. The necklace has been sitting around for about 20 years. Joyce threads the beads onto a sturdier chain. Together, Joyce and Law decide to turn broken bits of the sentimental chain into an ankle bracelet. Not everything placed in front of volunteers today can be fixed on the spot or at all. A jacket with an unusual zipper, a VCR, and a coffee percolator stumped the experts. One volunteer agrees to keep working on a 1920s era sewing machine if he can find the parts. And 10-year-old Abdul Sensui won't be able to ride his black and orange BMX bike home. It needs a new chain. Anyways, let me just fly through this real quick. At 5 p.m., as the cafe wraps up, 80% of more than 100 broken items have been repaired. Volunteers pack up and put away the portable tables, except one. Jim Rutherford and Brenda O'Malley keep one on the computer repair stations open until 6, when the transfer of files from an old computer to a new one is finally finished. I think this is one of the dopest things I've seen in a long, long time, okay? It sounds boring, but this is probably one of the dopest things I've seen in a long time. Here's my analysis on this. I think if we had more of these in community, I think that you'll see less flat screen TVs sitting on the sidewalk. I don't know why people dump them like that, because you have to actually, you have to call to actually have them picked up. And so I'm saying this so that we understand that there is a market for this. I know I shouldn't say a market. I think there's a necessity for this, primarily because a lot of electronics get thrown out because people don't understand what's wrong with it, not so much that it doesn't work. And so I think that there is a opportunity to turn this into something really big. I see a lot of flat screens sitting outside, whether it's 27 or I've seen 65, 70-inch TVs sitting on the sidewalk, and it's inconceivable that you would just toss something like that on the curb without first having it, looked at by somebody. And so I do think that this is something that should be adopted. I know in Ghana, when I was there, in Ghana, you have a lot of guys taking apart electronics that get dumped over there. Those things are completely dead. You're not going to be able to use those again. But what they have been doing, and we have covered this before, is that they've taken pieces of motherboards and capacitors and different circuits and whatnot, and have been able to, build different sort of contraptions. One time we covered this a few years ago was that guys were building robots out in Sudan, okay? And they actually won a mega prize out of it in a competition, that they were able to take, these robots, well, I shouldn't say these robots, but these different parts from printers, broken printers, and make drones out of them and actually turn them into irrigation. And so I think this is a really dope thing. I haven't seen anything like this in a long time, man. This is really dope. All right, let me jump to the next item on the docket. All right, next item on the docket is from cleantechnica.com. Carry EV assembles first batch of electric cargo three-wheelers for the last mile deliveries in refugee camp. We've talked about this many times before. I think goes without saying. In fact, we covered these guys last month. Let me just kind of breeze through this. Carry EV is an electric vehicle startup based in Nairobi, Kenya, founded by Christopher Mukeri Mara. The name Kiri was inspired by his middle name, Mukeri, which means the quiet one, which is pretty cool since electric vehicles are quite silent. Kiri EV's business focuses on assembling and selling electric 2- and 3-wheelers, public and private charging and swap stations, as well as after-sales support, with the objective of providing holistic end-to-end services that ensure customers get the full potential of their electric vehicles. Kiri has been quite active in the Kenya two-wheeler space. Kiri EV has now completed the assembly of the first batch of the electric cargo tuk-tuks. The company has imported them as knockdown kits from China and assembled them in Nairobi. The electric cargo tuk-tuks come in two variants, one with a 1,500-watt motor and the other with a 3,000-watt motor. The tuk-tuks weigh 133 kilograms, excluding the battery. The maximum load is 530 kilograms. They have a top speed limit to 50 kilometers an hour, and their range is 70 kilometers. Charging with 8.64 kilowatt hour battery takes approximately 6 hours. Kiri EV has used 72 volt, 30 amp hours times 4 lithium battery packs for the tuk-tuk. This is a picture of them right here. We kind of went over this before, but this is up Complex's alley. It's about micro transportation and micro mobility. The cargo tuk-tuks were assembled from Trike. Trike will use the cargo tuk-tuks for last mile deliveries in the Kakuma refugee camp, and will be combined with solar powered charging and battery swapping points. This is a perfect application for electric cargo tuk-tuks. The Trike is looking to pilot these for the next 6 to 8 months. Curie EV will use this period to get important insights and feedback on the performance of the cargo three-wheelers before they scale these further with a main target of rural areas and last mile delivery applications for urban areas. In the refugee camp, the electric cargo tuk-tuks will be used for applications such as delivering water, food stuff, cooking gas cylinders, and general last mile transport from shop to consumer. Three-wheelers have a key role to play in the rural, peri-urban, and urban landscape in a lot of African countries. Internal combustion engine three-wheelers are already one of the key modes of transportation in places like Mombasa and the Kenyan coastal region. There is a viable, addressable market for replacing this fleet with electric tuk-tuks that are designed for local conditions and applications. I don't know what's going on here. Pilot programs such as this one by Curie EV and Trike are the perfect platforms to get real usage data and also to get people in the three-wheeler sector acquainted with electric three-wheelers. These electric three-wheelers coupled with solar-powered charging and battery swap stations will have a transformational effect in rural and peri-rural areas. These areas are still severely underserved when it comes to transport services. These tuk-tuks enable people in these remote areas to maneuver comfortably in environments where larger vehicles such as cars and trucks would not be quite applicable due to the lack of adequate road infrastructure. Talked about that earlier. Road infrastructure is very important in a lot of areas. These areas are also far from petrol stations. Therefore, it would be a hassle to get fuel to ICE vehicles. Distributed solar systems such as rural mini grids, which are now coming up in these areas more than before, will also help increase the number of areas in these off-grid environments where electric tuk-tuks can be integrated. I mean, we talked about this many times before. Complex is really and huge advocate for these sort of vehicles and thinks that this market is going to be viable for the foreseeable future. And so he's been heavily invested into this type of stuff. I've seen these myself. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity that's going to come out of them. I think eventually in the United States, you're going to see a lot more of these due to the fact that we have different laws, but the laws will be curtailed probably in the next election cycle. You'll start to see some more legislation come out behind them because the ubiquity of last mile delivery in these sort of vehicles make a lot of sense, especially if they're electric. They make a heck of a lot of sense because they don't need to go on the highway. They just need to go down city blocks and so on and so forth. And so I think from a business perspective, this is really huge. From a social impact perspective, this is really huge. I think in the South, this is going to be really huge. And especially places like that have high density, like New York City and whatnot, these are going to be huge. I mean, you can probably put, if I'm an Amazon last mile delivery contractor, for example, I might be able to do, dozens of deliveries and I don't need to have a big Rivian van that parks in the middle of the street and blocks up traffic and stuff like that. It's just so many opportunities that can come from this, man. I wish I was in that part of the micro transportation and micro mobility market. All right, let me get to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from bikeradar.com. Short on space, Dahone's new cargo bike folds in half. This should be interesting. The Dahone foldable cargo e-bike is a tadpole style basket cargo trike that folds in the middle to reduce its footprint when stored. Unfolded, the Dahone foldable cargo e-bike is 203 centimeters long, but it folds to 127 centimeters long by 93 centimeters wide and 83 centimeters high, reducing the overall length by 76 centimeters. It folds just in half. It folds in half just aft of the large wooden front hopper. The rear half of the frame, which includes a single rear wheel, gears in saddle along with the motor, rotates clockwise to sit flush inside the front half, saving a significant amount of storage space. Dahone points out that the folding mechanism also makes the bike a lot easier to store, a lot easier to get into elevators and other small spaces. The bike has a maximum cargo capacity of 250 kilograms, and Dahone offers child seats as an accessory. Even more load carrying capacity comes from the rear rack. Electric cargo bikes are versatile load carriers that can be used as a car substitute to carry shopping, tools, and equipment for work, luggage for a weekend trip, or even take the kids on a car-free journey. Dahone has ported over its electric bike tech into the new cargo bike. The 250 watt electric motor is mid-mounted and offers 4 assist levels. It's powered by a high-capacity 960 wattage hour Samsung battery that Dahone says will provide between 160 and 200 kilometer range. There are also 5 user-selected gears and disc brakes. Dahone says its new foldable cargo e-bike is ready to ship to distributors, but hasn't supplied pricing information as of yet. We talked about cargo bikes on here before, and I think that there is I think there's an opportunity to really exploit these. If you use like a Volkswagen Golf or like a Honda Civic or something like that, this actually has a lot more room than a Lamborghini. Believe it or not, the storage capacity. I think a Lamborghini's storage capacity on some of them, like a Huracan STO, you don't have any storage capacity at all. And so this bike actually has a lot more storage capacity than a Lamborghini that has $500,000 price tag on it. And so it does make a lot of sense in the long run to have one of these. And we've talked about this before, that microtransportation, e-scooters, e-bikes, e-cargo bikes, and things like this, like you see on the screen, is eventually everybody's going to have one. It's going to be like an accessory to have, because the cost will come down and the subsidies from state and local government will make a lot more sense to buy one than not to have one at all. There was a time when most people had bikes. Now you don't really see too many of those people owning bikes anymore. But now the ubiquity of these discussions around UBM, Universal Basic Mobility, these things make a lot of sense. I really don't need to drive to pick up groceries in a car. I can actually just jump on a bike and prop the groceries in there and just keep it moving. All right, let's keep going here. All right, this is from Tech Build Africa. Mobility startup Trapeze secures additional $1.2 million expands East African operations. Trapeze, which was founded in September 2019 in Nigeria, has announced today that it has further expanded its operations in East Africa with a focus on Kenya just over a year after launching in Uganda and Ghana. With a launch of Trapeze Kenya, it is the company's fourth country where it operates from in 3 years. This new expansion follows investments made in Trapeze in the last couple of months, led by Gig Africa Fund, along with Mo Angels, Rose Lake VC, Unpopular VC, Goodwater Capital, and BKR Capital. There were also follow-on investments from Trapeze current investors, including Shark Ventures, Winston Limited, led by the Lynch brothers, Aston Investments, and Novum Actors, led by Clara Ogasimi. With the launch of Kenyan service in Nairobi and later in Mombasa, the team at Trapeze is also excited to welcome Mr. Samar Patel as its new country manager for Trapeze Kenya. Mr. Patel brings on 18 years worth of sales, transportation, and technology experience to the role, having most recently held a similar position with Swivel Kenya. Under his leadership, it expected that Trapeze Kenya will continue to grow and innovate in the region. In recent times, Trapeze has had a strong focus on vehicle rental service, or what the company refers to as Business Trapeze. This move has also led Trapeze Kenya to signing up a couple of high-profile companies to provide commuting service for their employees or students. These companies include reputable firms like Twigger Foods, Abacus Schools, Oak House School, Diamond Trust Bank, with 20 big name deals across Kenya in the pipeline. These partnerships demonstrate the growing demand for Trapeze innovative solutions, especially with vehicle rental service for business. And the company is confident that this trend will continue as it expands its reach. Gig Africa's investment into Trapeze comes at the startup was named the Africa winner in the industrial tech category as the 2022 African Startup Awards. The largest independent startup ecosystem competition on the continent, and exclusive vehicle for the Gig Africa Fund to find, fund, and scale Africa's most innovative startups with sustainable development goal-aligned solutions. In doing so, Gig Africa now joins the long list of Trapeze investment partners, which include the likes of Techstars, Google, Orbit, startups, Loftlink, Niche Capital, OPDA, Microtraction, Crossfund, Uncovered Funds, and Jedar Capital, among others. While not as widely regarded as sectors such as fintech, mobility tech has attracted significant attention from investors in recent years. According to the latest Africa Tech Venture Capital reported by Partech, the vertical accounted for $195 million of total funding for African startups in 2022, putting it on par with health tech and ahead of the ed tech and agri-tech sectors of $97 million and $86 million respectively. So this is what Complex has been discussing. I know this is up in Complex's wheelhouse, but this is what he's been discussing, that this market is viable. It's viable now. It was viable 2 years ago, and it's going to be extremely viable in the next foreseeable future as it stands. And so microtransportation, vehicle rent, e-mobility, universal basic mobility, all of these sort of buzzwords that you hear us throw around have value to them beyond a hashtag. They actually have a viable market to work with. Okay. All right, let me jump to the next item on the docket. Keep flying through this. All right. This is from geekwire.com. Drone startup Brink prepares to take off with ex-Amazon engineers and geopolitical tailwinds. It's going to be interesting. Brink, oh, sorry. Wearing the safety glasses provided under my seat, I watch a small drone equipped with a spinning blade hurtle toward a test window, shattering the glass on impact. That's part of the pitch from Brink, a Seattle startup that manufactures tactical unmanned aerial vehicles and equipment for public safety. Brink recently hosted a media event at its Seattle headquarters to unveil the Lemoore 2, its latest drone equipped with new features like onboard sensor for producing 3D maps and an obstacle avoidance system that operates without relying on GPS or light. Led by 23-year-old Blake Resnick, Brink's new product launch comes amid ongoing moves by the United States government to blacklist Chinese drones giant DJI. Quote, the free world needs a drone maker, Resnick said. So that's what we want to be. Brink differentiates itself from other drone companies by serving first responders with tools to keep people out of dangerous situations. Customers around the Seattle, the police department, which has used the drones to mediate a hostage negotiation in around 400 other agencies across the country. The startup has raised $80 million in total funding. Its backers, including Index Ventures, Tusk Venture Partners, and NextPlay Ventures, a firm founded by former LinkedIn CEO Jeff Weiner. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman was Brink's first external investor via OpenAI Startup Investment Program. Wow. When Resnick was 17, he was inspired to engineer a drone for first responders after a mass shooting in the hometown of Las Vegas that killed more than 50 people. We remember that guy shot from the hotel window and nailed 50 people. It took 3 years of trial and error before Brink took off. Resnick spent time testing the hardware, including working with SWAT officers to refine and improve his prototype drone before it was used in the field by Las Vegas police. Resnick made headlines after a video surfaced of him sharing his vision of wall of drones at the US-Mexico border. Resnick, then 17, addressed this controversy in a blog post last year, condemning his actions as immature. The backlash over the video inspired some of the Brink's values, which include never build technologies designed to hurt or kill. In 2022, the company moved its headquarters to Seattle because of the region's concentration of talent in aerospace, consumer electronics, and software. Resnick said about 15 employees from Prime Air, Amazon's drone delivery service, have since joined the startup. Brink's drones were recently deployed in Hatay, Turkey, aiding the search for survivors following a devastating earthquake that has claimed more than 50,000 lives, according to Brink Chief of Staff Andrew Cote. Last year, the startup donated 10 drones to Ukraine and sold an additional 50 drones for information gathering and search and rescue operations. In 2021, its UAVs were used in assessing damage caused by the Surfside condominium collapse in Florida. Brink's drones were recently approved by the US government for compliance with the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA. To meet the criteria, the startup had to ensure that none of its competitors were forced from blacklisted Chinese manufacturers. This proved to be difficult, says Resnick, who noted that the entire global drone supply chain is based out of Shenzhen, China. Not being able to use any of their parts presents a major challenge that takes a huge amount of engineering to fix, he said. Brink now has a vertically integrated supply chain, producing all parts in-house and sourcing most components from the US. The company also uses its fleet of Mark Forged 3D printers to manufacture and replacement parts for customers, leading to faster turnaround times, according to Brink Executive Vice President Colin Bell. Resnick said its closest competitor is Belgium-based Sky Hero, which makes tactical drones for law enforcement and military clients. There's also autonomous drone manufacturer Skydio, a San Francisco-based startup that recently raised $230 million from investors, including Axon, Lockheed Martin Ventures, NVIDIA, Anderson, Horowitz. Its valuation increased to $2.2 billion. Resnick said Skydio caters to a much broader array of verticals ranging from consumer to defense, whereas Brink concentrates solely on public safety. Quote, you can imagine selling a $50 million drone program to the DoD is very different than selling a $1,000 drone to a 15-year-old, he said. It's just hard to do all of that, well. In the future, Brink plans to implement more carrying capacity for its drones, enabling first responders to deliver Narcan, EpiPens, or even a pack of cigarettes in a hostage situation, Resnick said. The company also wants to equip its drones with chemical sensors to aid in hazardous material emergencies. I have to tip my hat to this guy. Okay? I have to tip my hat to him. While in Black male social spaces, they'll tell you that the gynocracy and the matriarchy and the Illuminati and the Bilderberg and, you know, all these, you know, invisible forces are keeping Black men from advancing. This guy who's biracial obviously does not see this as a stopping point. He's getting to the bag and he's making moves, and I'm very impressed by what this guy is doing. I don't know. Speaks volumes about what he's doing, but what does that say about a lot of these Black men in this space? While we cover him, they cover women. All right, next item on the docket. All right, this is from Cointelegraph. Polygon and Mercy Corps bring blockchain to underserved communities. The Polygon Network and Mercy Corps ventures partnership target underserved communities in blockchain awareness and education initiatives. Blockchain technology continues to make its way into the mainstream view as many companies adopt it as part of their operations. With the push for adoption comes with the simultaneous need for education and about the technology. A new partnership announced on March 2nd between the Polygon blockchain and Polygon blockchain network and Mercy Corps Ventures, the investment arm of the humanitarian organization Mercy Corps, focuses on bringing blockchain education and opportunities to underserved communities. According to the announcement, the new partnership has 3 primary objectives in its efforts to bring blockchain and Web3 solutions to traditionally excluded and underserved communities. These objectives include funding blockchain pilots that enable access to financial systems, blockchain hackathons with developers serving users in emerging markets, and creating a blockchain bootcamp roadshow in areas with a Mercy Corps present. The partners believe these efforts can help provide educational and informational sessions for local educational institutions, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and other organizations looking to improve operations through blockchain technology. Last month, Mercy Corps Ventures launched its Crypto for Good Fund 2, which aims to launch a series of pilots utilizing blockchain technology to derive global financial inclusion and further climate resiliency. The first iteration of the fund launched in 2022 with almost 200 applicants. In light of the recent earthquake that devastated parts of Turkey and Syria, Mercy Corps was involved in a series of donations coming from the crypto community to deliver aid. It reported receiving a 50-50 split of funds donated by the cryptocurrency exchange Binance, which at the time was around $60,000 in total. Additionally, Ripple tweeted that it would be donating XRP worth $1 million in light of the incident and highlighted Mercy Corps as one of the recipients of the funds. Mercy Corps responded to the donation in a tweet thanking Ripple for supporting its teams on the ground in Northwest Syria. Donations in cryptocurrencies during times of crisis have recently been proven as a way to amplify the speed of reach of needed funds. I think that's a noble cause for the tech industry. Social impact is a very important, it's a very important aspect of being involved in the market. It's good for business, and it's actually good for the soul. All right, this is from NBCnews.com.
To the original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And as we get towards the end of Black History Month, we're looking at one college teaching the subject in a brand new way, Morehouse College, using virtual reality now to immerse students in key moments from the past, giving them the opportunity to learn Black history in the Metaverse. NBC's Zincle Asamoah has more.
Morehouse College is taking virtual learning to a whole new level.
Why teach Black history through virtual reality? Why not use a textbook or the typical means of education?
So immersive virtual reality is a real unique space.
Dr. Messina Morris is the director of this historically Black college's Metaverse project.
You can actually go back to that time period and recreate the scene of what happened and bring it to life for most students.
Students in Atlanta, Georgia, now taking the inaugural Introduction to the African Diaspora course.
In the class, we cover a scope from, like, say, the Underground Railroad Museum with the Amistad, all the way to the Civil Rights Movement with Martin Luther King's March on Washington, and also his assassination in 1968.
The class at times witnessing historic and humbling scenes from U.S. history.
And you can see the horrendous, just inhumane conditions.
It's a lot to take in.
I imagine a lot of this content is pretty heavy and sobering for students. How do you walk them through that?
First, I mentally prepare them for the class and saying, we're going to be seeing, like, say, slave ship, we're going to be seeing some gore. But if you cannot take it, you can always, there's an exit button on your headset, you can exit out.
And while the course requires emotional depth, practitioners and students say they're glad to dig in.
I never used Metaverse or virtual reality before. It just made me realize I'm grateful for where I'm at today and that I was born in this age I can go back in history and just see what people went through.
The course is part of a worldwide VR initiative by Victory XR, a virtual and augmented reality company founded in 2016.
We have close to 70 colleges and universities signed up to either deploy classes in the metaverse or they have purchased licenses to begin exploring and figuring out what model might work for them.
Professors Morris and Hamilton hope more schools will follow suit to give teachers and students the historical knowledge and technical skill to enter the 21st century workforce and world.
At the end of the day, we have got to use the lessons of the past to help make sure that they don't get relived.
A look at Black history through the eyes of the future. Zinklea Samoa, NBC News, Atlanta, Georgia.
I think that this is probably one of the
automatically adjust to your.
I think that this is probably one of the most compelling cases for Metaverse that has been spoken about since, the inception of AR and VR and things like that. Putting AP African American Studies course in the Metaverse takes it out of the hands of the actual oppressors who want to cause harm by creating policy that circumvents the ability to learn the technology. And so, learn the history. And so we see this happening in Florida. We hear about it in Virginia. We're hearing about it in and we're hearing about it in many of these southern states that want to ban critical race theory, even though it's not taught in K through 12, ban what they call wokeism or anti-woke legislation. I think the best thing to do is make it available in the Metaverse. I think that is really dope. I know there's some people in the chat room who disagree, but the thing here is you have to understand education is going to the Metaverse. It doesn't matter what they, what the opposition is to it. It's already moving in that direction. You already heard, the CEO say that 70 universities and colleges have already signed up for it. So why argue against it when they already have the numbers? It doesn't make any sense. How can it be more traumatizing, it being in the Metaverse than, learning it from a book? I mean, I think what's more traumatizing are white supremacists running around shooting up grandmothers in supermarkets and, in Mother Emanuel churches praying on their hands and knees. No one seems to have a problem with that, but they only seem to have a problem with, education being in the Metaverse. Learn machine learning and AI. Yeah, okay, man. All right, man. Yeah, it's a class about Black history. So if they're learning, Black history in the metaverse, why would, machine learning and algebra be a part of that course? I don't know. I don't know. All right, this is from Comcast.com. Comcast partners with Hidden Genius Project to help Black male youth in Atlanta and Chicago acquire digital skills and enter the tech sector. Expand this out. Comcast NBC Universal today announced a new $2 million grant to the Hidden Genius Project, furthering the company's longstanding efforts to advance economic mobility through critical digital skills building across its national footprint and here in Atlanta. A globally recognized nonprofit, the Hidden Genius Project trains and mentors Black male youth in technology creation, entrepreneurship, and leadership skills to transform their lives and communities. Comcast funding, which will be distributed over 2 years, will support the Hidden Genius Project's expansion to Atlanta and Chicago this year. Representation within this tech sector continues to be starkly inequitable. Black Americans occupy just 7% of tech jobs, although they account for 14% of the national population. Founded in 2012, the Hidden Genius Project has provided mentorship, career planning, and tech skills training to hundreds of Black male high school youth in Oakland, Richmond, and Los Angeles, California, and in Detroit, Michigan through their intensive immersion program. Program participants have a 98% high school graduation rate, with 95% entering post-secondary education and over 40% of alumni studying computer science or related fields. Building on its track record, Comcast funding will help even more former program participants gain post-secondary education and support the development of Genius Lab, an innovative new curriculum for young people of color to gain computer science, software development and entrepreneurial skills. Quote, our continued partnership with Comcast NBC Universal will equip us to engage even more Black youth with the skills, experiences, and networks to find their way into family-sustaining career pathways, including the tech sector, said Brandon Nicholson, PhD, Chief Executive Officer of the Hidden Genius Project. With ample access, our young people regularly realize their potential to pursue meaningful and exciting pathways, and subsequently create future opportunities, not only for themselves, but also their entire community. Quote, we are thrilled to support the Hidden Genius Project and their mission of guiding Black male youth on their path to becoming leaders in the technology sector, said Jason Gums, Regional SVP at Comcast. In a digital economy, having the necessary programming and resources needed to thrive is critical. We look forward to the Hidden Genius Project's continued success and their expansion to Atlanta. The grant announcement marks the continuation of Comcast's 7-year partnership with the Hidden Genius Project, which has enabled programmatic, volunteer, and outreach collaboration in local communities across the country. The announcement is also part of Project Up, Comcast's $1 billion commitment to reach tens of millions of people in order to advance digital equity and help create a future of unlimited possibilities. So, in Black male spaces, what they will tell you is that the gynocracy, the matriarchy, the Illuminati, George Soros, all of these invisible forces are keeping Black males from actually developing. And so something must be done. Looks like a lot has been going on outside of the manosphere. Okay. Hidden Genius Project, we've talked about that for quite some time on this channel. And for a lot of people, they will tell you that nothing is being done, 15-point agendas, somebody must do something. Where's Biden? Where's Kamala Harris? Where's the Congressional Black Caucus? Oh, here's the Congressional Black Caucus. Here's the Hidden Genius Project. Here's Black men stepping up. Here are what the PhDs are doing. Okay. Here's where all this money is going. Where are these guys at now in this space who lament about invisible forces by the opposite sex? Where are they at now? 98% success rate, okay? 98%. %, entering post-secondary education, and over 40% of alumni studying computer science or related fields. I thought this wasn't possible. I thought that, you know, where are all these people at? The gynocracy, the matriarchy, the Illuminati, the Bilderberg, the George Soros. Somebody's doing something somewhere to prevent this from happening, right? This has been going on for 7 years. What are we talking about here? 98% high school graduation rate, 95% entering post-secondary education, over 40% alumni studying computer science. Millions of dollars being pumped into this now, Comcast providing the infrastructure, providing the investment. What happened? Instead of worrying about bringing women back to the table, these guys are getting things done. These guys are getting things done. Well, I thought that this wasn't possible. I thought passport bros, working remote, Chat GPT, AI, what happened? What happened? Where did all these invisible forces come from? Where are they at now? Very successful program. Hidden Genius Project. I used to be a PCI, pre-college initiative envoy with NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE Junior. They have a similar program. Very high success rates. In all the Black communities that you could possibly imagine, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, Oakland. What happened though? I thought that the gynocracy was stopping all of this from happening. Unbelievable. Or should I say unbelievable, since so many want to critique Black women's hair and blame that on the failure of Black boys. I thought that somebody was preventing them from doing all this. Where are all these naysayers at now? Where are they at? Founded in 2012, long before the 2.0 existed. Okay. The link is in the chat. Where are all these guys who were defending this 24 hours ago on these other channels? Where are they at? we've talked about Hidden Genius Project in the past, and we've talked about many other programs and individual Black males who achieved, and we talked about a 9-year-old who graduated from high school recently, who actually linked up with Neil deGrasse Tyson, PhD in astrophysicist. Where are these guys at now? Where are they at?
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
Hey, nothing, bro. Nothing much, bro. What's going on?
Not much, man. I actually I just woke up about 15 minutes ago, so I was listening in. No, I just wanted to say, man, they're talking about matrifocal families and gynopotestal concepts, right? Which is just a repackaging.
Is that like a
huh?
I was gonna ask, is that like a kidney issue, or is that some kind of like spleen?
I thought it was like an inflammation issue in like the foot, but then I was getting that confused with gout. So gynopotestal, that's something else. Yeah, maybe kind of kidney gallstones or something, but no, actually it's another rebranding and repackaging of this female issue, I guess. Right, which is all going to stop you from doing stuff, I guess. So that's what's
unbelievable, man.
These YouTube streets now, man. Matrifocal and gynopotestal. Yeah,
where are all these guys?
Those are your news buzzwords, everybody. Get familiar.
Yeah, where are all of these guys in the last 24 hours who had these after streams for bringing women back to the table, arguing, bickering over the Black community can't be rebuilt without the women. Well, wait a second here. Slow down there, gunpowder. Right? Slow down there, gunpowder. Comcast partners with Hidden Genius Project to help Black male youth in Atlanta and Chicago acquire digital skills and enter the tech sector. 98% success rate. 98%. $2 million in investment.
But wait a minute,
seven-year
Mike,
investment deal.
Wait a minute. That 2% though, okay? You know what the cause of that was, right? Yeah, but what about the other 2%?
Yeah. I mean, this came out last month. I meant to add it to the docket, and I just didn't have the flexibility to do it, but I made sure that I was going to cover it after the fact. I've said this many times in the manosphere on different panels, especially some of these other frequent panels that like to talk about women. If you're not organized and you don't understand the process, you're not going to get anything done. It doesn't matter who you bring to the table. What are you bringing these people to the table for? I mean, these people are doing this without, these invisible forces. So what are we discussing here? And I shouldn't say last month, but in January, the administration, the White House administration, allocated $2 million. Let me pull this up so that we're not, so people don't think that I'm just making this up.
I gotta check out this after stream. I didn't check it out. I didn't even check out the stream that the after stream was for. So
yeah,
I gotta catch up on the goings ons, I guess. What is it? More of the same crap though?
I'm just saying, I'm not going to speak about it. I'm just saying that that's what the investment is in the space. Passport bros, right? We got to talk about passport bros. If you don't act right, then we're going to leave. I thought we were talking about black boys. What happened?
They can't read, man. What the hell? What are you leaving
Yeah,
is going to do what for their literacy rates?
Yeah, I thought that was important.
Yeah, it's like pick a struggle, man. Jesus.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
All
Let me pull this up. Oh, here we go, right here. Boom. All right, here we go. Here we go. Actually, let me drop this down here. Let me drop this down here. Let me know if you can see this in the chat. Let me expand this out too, so that no one can say. Just lost my place. Oh, here we go, right here. All right. What you're looking at here is the Congressional House Appropriations fiscal spending for 2023, okay? U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, $14.4 million, an increase of $1.35 million above fiscal year 2022, including $2 million for the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. Okay? You get $2 million from Comcast, $2 million from the Office of Civil Rights on the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. Now, all these guys who sat around in this space back in November and October saying, oh, what are they doing for Black boys? What are they doing for Black boys? Well, here's what they're doing for Black boys. $2 million from the administration. Okay. Would I prefer 2 billion? Absolutely. But I take what we can get, right? $2 million. Now you add what just happened with Comcast and the Hidden Genius Project. You can't say no one's doing anything for Black boys. Really? Can you say that? Can anybody say that? The link is in the chat. Zone just dropped the link in the chat again. Come up here and defend the invisible hand of the gynocracy, stopping Black boys from learning. Yeah, well, I'd rather have $2 million, Mr. Hypermagnetic, than to have nothing. How many super chats are going to these initiatives in the manosphere? When Seven Candles was on the come up, he was trending. I didn't see anybody holding his feet to the fire about Black boys. Did you, Complex?
No, no. I mean, it would always, it would always be brought up as a talking point, conveniently. But when push comes to shove, I don't know, man. I don't know who's really trying to improve that literacy number around these parts outside of the brain trust.
Who wants equity? Who wants equity? Think to, I don't think that's a legitimate argument. Oh wait, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, Mike, I wasn't sure what was going on. I could hear you, and then it went away, and I thought you might have been doing something, but I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I guess a lot of my conversation got lost in transition. Where are all these people at? Who sat around the last 24 hours talking about the gynocracy was keeping Black boys from learning and this and that. Let's look at this real quick. Doesn't seem like anything's going on here. People were sharing different sort of content on their community tab. Look what this person said. Look at what she said. Did you hear what she said? Oh, girl, did you hear? Girl? Girl, did you hear that? People's bracelets and bangles and, hoop earrings jingling around. Girl, did you hear her? I can't believe she said that. And these are men talking like this.
Oh my God. I got to go catch this replay.
I mean, insanity, right? The insanity in the space that you hear from men who have abdicated all of their abilities to engage in the process, but want to have a conversation about, 15-point agendas and all that stuff. What are we talking about here? Tea sipping and tea spilling, Ronin Unsung. Tea sipping and tea spilling. Guys ride around in their car all day long, yap, 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 yap about women.
Now, mind you guys, this is all for entertainment. This is all for entertainment, bro.
Look at Ryle's comment, man.
Hold on.
Ryle's comment is classic. That's a classic response. And I can't believe she said that. And she was dating this person, and she said this, and I was like,
I mean, if y'all want to get a real chick's perspective, y'all need to go over to this channel over here and listen to her commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, let's share her content. She's a good woman. She's a good one. And what are the Democrats doing? Oh, here's what the Democrats are doing.
Let's ask her.
U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, $14.4 million, an increase of $1.35 million above the fiscal year 2022, including $2 million for the Commission on the social status of Black men and boys. Well, what's Stacey Abrams doing? Get her on the phone. What is she doing? The Southern gynocracy and the neocons. Where are these guys at now?
The Southern gynocracy strategy.
Yeah, that's what was said. That's what was said.
I mean, I'm down to talk about the Southern technocracy strategy. I'm down for that conversation.
It doesn't exist. Oh, complex. You missed it. You missed it. Here's the article here. Mississippi 50th place in everything passes bill to stop EV dealers.
Oh man. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, what is it? Was it Wyoming or Iowa? One of them. They banned EV cars. They just banned EVs outright. It's just like, they just get them out of here. Don't even bring them here.
But this is what guys are riding, you know. This is what guys are gonna hang their hat on, man.
Yeah. I'm saying, dude, we saw that, I don't know, some years ago. That's why this channel was formed.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow. So this is pretty much, this is the hill you guys gonna die on, huh?
Unbelievable, man. I've said this, I mean, we've said this many times on this channel since its inception. If you put something together, it will work because it has to work. There is no, oh man, we tried that and it failed. Bullshit. The Hidden Genius Project is very successful. NISBE is very successful in what they're doing. Okay. Hey,
Pacific Rise and our micromobility shit is successful.
I mean, in terms of Black boy initiatives, right? These sort of initiatives. Oh, how do we know it's going to work?
And then I'm also talking about in terms of that initiative, doing some shit, right? As if brothers in this space can't coalesce together and do something. That's bullshit too.
Let me read this last piece from Marquette.
Okay.
This is from Marquette Today, Marquette University. Graduate student and Trinity Fellow honored at African American Environmental Pioneer Awards. Danico Montgomery, a Trinity Fellow and graduate student in public service and public administration, was honored with a Rising Star Award at the 4th Annual African American Environmental Pioneer Awards. Montgomery is committed to community service, social justice, and advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in the organization's workplace. A Milwaukee native, he works and speaks on issues that his community faces daily. During his time as a AmeriCorps member at City Year of Milwaukee, he launched Bow Tie Tuesday to bring awareness to young Black men who are more likely to go to prison than college, and the lack of diversity in male teachers teaching in America. He co-founded the startup Patient Clinic Connect project when he was a public ally, which promotes holistic self-care of mind, body, and spirit in an accessible and intentional way. Currently, Montgomery is an outreach specialist and youth program coordinator at Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, which he facilitates activities for youth focusing on leadership development and environmental-based issues in Milwaukee. This past summer, he organized and led a 6-week series of educational activities and projects called Water Journeys that serve more than 50 high school students from 6 youth environmental organizations, including Reflow, True School, 16th Street Community Health Center, Nearby Nature and River Revitalization. He is currently the youngest member of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Anti-Racism Council at MMSD. The African American Environmental Awards were started by the Sierra Club Great Waters Group and Nearby Nature Milwaukee to bring attention to the environment-related work done by Black Milwaukeeans. The award ceremony was held on Monday, February 20th at the Black Historical Society in Milwaukee. I thought the gynocracy would stop this guy. What happened?
Well, just you wait, Mike.
Unbelievable, man. The work he's doing, everything I just spoke about, social impact, social justice. He didn't say Tie Tuesday, he said Bow Tie Tuesday. See how easy that is? Suit Saturdays, Bow Tie Tuesdays, what happened? And he's a STEM grad, okay? He's environmental justice. So public service and public administration. I hear these sort of statements being made about what Black men need to do and bring people back to a table. How come all these guys that we cover are doing exactly the opposite of what they're doing, what this space advises, and they're getting stuff done?
I mean, I think that's sort of like the irony of it, right? You know, what you hear oftentimes in most of these Black male spaces is, getting it right with women and doing all this wrangling and stuff is what it's like. It's almost as if there's some sort of trickle down effect. Not to say that they're, healthy families does not have or doesn't reverberate, in terms of like having like, functional communities and stuff. I'm not saying that. However, if we're talking about, advancement for Black men, Black males, Black boys and stuff like that, then that's a different conversation. That's the conversation we're always trying to have over, we're always having over here. I don't see how literacy rates get addressed by, I don't know, you bring your sisters to the table to say, hey, teach your boys how to read. Is that what they're is that what they're coming to the table to do? I don't know, man.
Maybe bringing them to the table so they can sip more tea.
Yeah, more tea, ma'am. Would you like some tea? Earl Grey? With a dollop of honey.
Well, T. Riddler, says in the chat, who cares? Let people talk about what they want. Y'all need to focus on your content and what you want to put out into the world of content. In hindsight, that sounds genius. No pun intended. But what happens in this space and what happens in social media is that bad information, misinformation gets put out there, okay? And then we have to decipher and walk some of this stuff back because people are running around with all this misinformation. This is how the Asian hate crime bill got spurred. Okay, oh, the Asians got a hate crime bill. The Asians got a hate crime bill, but that was never true. And so you have people who have an agenda to try to poison people in social media with misinformation that something is happening that's not really happening, and then they can't prove it, and then they, go on for 2 or 3 hours bickering about it. And so the objective of this sort of live stream is to counter those narratives. Okay, you have to counter narratives. You have to code break. So what's going on, Rob?
That's legit what this is about.
Yep. I think Rob's getting his mic together.
Oh, okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, there you go. What's up, man?
Peace, Mike. Peace, Complex. Peace to the chat. Peace to people listening in the clouds. I've been doing a lot of reading up on Booker T. Washington for stream that me and Complex will be doing hopefully within the next week. And the more that I read, the more I see that something that I've said for a long time is really true. I've been saying probably in the space for probably about 3 or 4 years that this argument that or debate that Booker T and Du Bois and later on Du Bois and Garvey had represented a split. Basically 2 sides. And that divide is still here. Du Bois is the one who's responsible for the split. He formulated a group of people who didn't agree with Booker T's, basically his tactics. Even though Booker T was actually getting things for Black people. And this ultimately formed into the group known as the NAACP, which was a group that was formed specifically to undermine what Booker T. Washington was doing. That was the reason. That was the reason for the formation of the NAACP. And the thing that the mistake that Du Bois made, and he ultimately, it took him basically a lifetime to realize he made this mistake, was he separated the quote unquote civil rights aspect in terms of Black people being able to exercise their rights to vote, things like that, which was a fundamental mistake that he made by opposing Booker T. He separated that from the economic expansion aspect of of Booker T. Washington. And this has been the fight ever since. Because what you have now is a group of people who, and this is why I've been saying for such a long time, we're the only group of people that really does not respect its Black business class, especially the Black male business class. And this is a fundamental mistake that we keep making. I would say this is the most egregious mistake that we make, especially when it's Black males who are doing it too, specifically Black males. And so this mistake has really caused us to waste a lot of time. Because if you're in business, I mean, we all know that when you're in business, boy, you got to swallow a lot of humble pie, boy, to get yours. You got to swallow your pride on a lot of stuff, because when you're in business, you're not just there for yourself. You have mutual interests, especially if you have investment interests with other men. You have your family's interests that you're fighting for when you're fighting for that slice of pie. So you can't approach negotiations like coming with an insulting mannerism. You know, you have to really understand how to speak the language of business. And the language of business is very simple. You have to be able to build relationships. And this is the fundamental problem that we're having with a lot of these guys, is that they spend so much time agitating, but they don't spend any time trying to build anything. And when you're on the sideline, especially from a theoretical framework, it's very easy to criticize let's say, a Booker T. Washington because he don't do it the way you say he should do it. But at the end of the day, he was his own man. And his work speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to go back and look at this lecture that Dr. Clark did on Booker T. Washington that I saw some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm seeing the evidence for myself why he considered Booker T. Washington the greatest leader we've ever had. I see it now. Like, I thought it was hyperbole at first when I first heard him say it. I didn't think he was a bad leader. But now that I'm seeing some of the things that he did, like his Tuskegee Farmers Conference that he would have, how he had Black farmers and white farmers taking classes on how to help them become not just farmers, but entrepreneurs, to the point where they could be so successful at farming that they could be productive enough to sell their produce and make a profit. Booker T. Washington's institutions were community-centered. Anybody that says that Booker T. Washington was not somebody who was Black people-centric, community-centric, is completely wrong. Every institution that he ever built was based on the Black community, everyone. And so sometimes, some of these guys, because they're so theoretical in their approach, they don't really understand what it means to actually be in the game. Because when you're in the game, you have to have a much more cerebral approach. You can't come into negotiations with people insulting them and going off on them, and thinking that you're going to just get something in return. That's just not the way it rolls. And like I said before, it's too much agitating and not really any building at all. There's a lot of people in this space that think building is firing up a live stream and just ranting. That's not going to get it done. Building is actually formulating those institutions that best represent you. Booker T. Washington is one of the people that we can really give a lot of credit for. I was just reading something recently that he was the one that actually named Black Wall Street. Like, he was the one that gave it the name. So we have done really a disservice to somebody who was about teaching Black people financial literacy. You're talking about a Black man who was he used to be in slavery and was teaching Black people financial literacy in terms of how to stay out of debt, how to learn how to acquire land, how to get rid of the mortgages on your property. He was very much about financial literacy for Black people. And you really see how much this split that Du Bois caused, because he tried to get Du Bois to come to Tuskegee twice to teach. So it wasn't like he was against him or his information. He would use a lot of his research in his institution to teach the Black students at Tuskegee. And I just really think, just from what I've seen thus far, to be honest, I just think that Du Bois was just, he split because he was hating. I just don't believe he just really wanted to be under the leadership of another Black man. And I really believe that that's what drives a lot of these arguments on the other side of those who don't do anything. It's not that we're saying anything that's wrong. It's just the fact that it's coming from us. To me, it's really that simple. It's not like we're out here conning people out of money and stuff like that. The reality is it's just coming from us as Black men. I really believe this can be really traced back to Du Bois' position concerning Booker T. Washington. And I think that mentality, that spirit is still heavily prevalent in a lot of these Black males who operate in the same theoretical framework, but who never actually get in the game.
I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's also a docket and description via the video for you to reference and follow along with.